So cute though, look at it. Oh, there we go, it's a peacock, and it says Stunner on the inside. I have my notes. We are going to talk today about the things that I did to prepare to leave my unhealthy relationship, my unhealthy marriage, all the things that I did in secret to prepare. These are things that worked for me, and they may or may not work for you. Just because they might not work for you doesn't mean it's a reason not to leave an unhealthy relationship, but maybe you're someone and you find yourself in a situation that was kind of like mine, and these tips might resonate with you. I think some of them will resonate with all of you. Whatever, I want to share these things because I've shared them with other women since, like in person, and I know that these tips have really resonated with them and they've helped them leave unhealthy marriages as well. So I've seen these things work for other people, or at least some of them work for other people. And yeah, I'm just gonna tell you the things I did. These are all things I did in secret without my husband at the time knowing I was doing these things, which I needed to do because it was not a healthy relationship, and leaving was scary. Like, the thought of leaving was scary, so I needed to do things safely and cautiously. And I think all women who are in unhealthy relationships need to be very safe and cautious as they're making the decision to leave. So anyway, let's get started. The first thing that I did was I found a local lawyer who was willing to meet with me for free. It was like a 15 or 30-minute consult. I sat with him probably 9 or 10 months before I was gonna leave my relationship. And I just sat down with some advice, or looking for some advice, some legal advice. I asked him some of these really big, scary questions around the biggest obstacles I felt were in my way. Those obstacles were finances. Like, what can I legally do with the money that we have, right? I don't want to do something illegal when I'm moving out. What about with my kids? What do I have to be cautious of, aware of when it comes to custody and leaving a house with my kids? As far as housing went, he actually gave me some really great advice. And again, this was my lawyer, my state, my situation. You know, he asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years living? And I said, well, in this town. I want to stay in this town and I want to be in a house. He's like, well, I mean, if you want to, if you can do it, if you can swing it, you know, look for a house, look for something more permanent, you know. He gave me the advice at that time to probably not just go move into like my mom's basement, right? Because of custody issues that I might face by moving into some place that was very, very, very temporary and not permanent. Again, those were all things that my lawyer told me, don't necessarily apply to other people, but those are such big obstacles when you're planning to leave a relationship: finances, custody, and where do you live? And I got some of the best answers from my lawyer. And so it was really nice to have those answers right away. So anybody who's contemplating leaving, whether you decide to leave or not, whether you're planning to leave soon or not, I always tell them, go talk to a lawyer. If you can't find a lawyer who's willing to talk to you for free, then contact a local domestic violence shelter or a women's shelter, and they have resources like that for you available. The next thing that I did, that I always tell people to do if they can, is to open a bank account. Open a bank account that is only in your name and in no way tied to your partner's or husband's or spouse's name. So I knew I needed to do this. I wanted to open a bank account for a few different reasons. I didn't necessarily start saving a bunch of money in that bank account, but I needed, as I looked for housing, I needed to have a bank account to connect to whatever like rent or mortgage I got, right? Or as I'm gonna set up all the bills for this new place to live, I needed my own bank account. So having that bank account was important. It was also very important because when it came time for me to take money from our joint accounts, I needed a place to put it. And so I opened up my own bank account. I have a really interesting story about that though. So I went into our local bank and I had set up an appointment with a woman who works there, who I only knew because she was the mom of a boy who had been in like an elementary after school program that I had worked at years before. So I had known who she was, and I would see her at the bank when I would go through the drive-through every once in a while. So I asked her, hi, can I meet with you to talk about opening up a bank account? And I sat down with her and I looked at her and I was like, look, I'm leaving my marriage and my ex cannot know that this bank account exists, because it was the same bank account where his accounts were. And she just looked at me and she's like, I know, I know what you're doing. And I know what it feels like, because she had done a very similar thing when her son was little. She had left a bad relationship. So it was, God, it was so incredible. This moment where I'm like in this bank shaking because I'm doing something that feels wrong, right? I'm doing something in secret that was needed though, for my safety, for my well-being too. It felt so scary. And so to have someone there who knew what I was going through and who knew as she was opening this bank account, not to connect it to my ex, to make sure I didn't have mail coming to my house, that was really important. A couple tips if you're opening up a bank account and you don't want your partner to know, be really careful, because a lot of times those bank accounts are going to send you mail even if you ask them not to. It happened to a girl that I know. She opened a bank account in secret and they still sent her mail even though she told them not to. It's worth asking whoever you're working with at a bank, how can you keep this safe and secret from your partner? Okay, I need to pause and take a drink of coffee. I had my coffee break, made sure all of my recording was actually working, and it is so far, you guys. It's awesome. All right, so we went through a couple already. Let's move on. All right, the next thing that I started doing to prepare to leave and move out was I started stashing supplies. What does that mean? So for me, I was moving out of the house that I shared with my husband at the time. That was my plan. It worked for me, it worked for our situation, for me to move out. Again, at the time, my husband did not know that that was my plan. So with that in mind, I think before I even had a place secured to live in once I left, I started, when I would run to the store, to Walmart, to Target, wherever, to go get just regular household supplies, like garbage bags, toilet paper, things like that, I would buy extra, and I started stashing those. For me, I was able to stash them in my closet at my house because my ex didn't look at my things like that. I know some people can't do that, but I was able to start stashing like extra toilet paper. And even so, like, even if he did see that, it didn't look weird, right? Like extra toilet paper in the bathroom, extra garbage bags under the sink. I started buying like the face lotion I used. I bought an extra one. I bought another mascara. I bought more shampoo, conditioner. Things that if he did see, he wouldn't question, why do we have extra? He would never think that, because those are things that we use all the time. Tampons, things that my kids needed. So extra diapers, extra wipes. I was just buying more than I would normally buy and stashing those. Eventually I did start taking bags of that stuff and giving them to my mom to keep for safekeeping. So finding someone who is trustworthy that could maybe hold on to some of those household supplies, that, you guys, I don't think people understand how helpful it is. If you're moving out, there are so many expenses that come with moving out of your home. Everything, like, I mean, I'm looking around my kitchen, like Ziploc bags, plastic containers to store food in, like paper towels, the towels you use to wipe your hands, sponges or whatever you use to wash your dishes, extra dish soap, the dishwasher detergent, laundry detergent. There's so many things you need to get. And so if you are preparing to leave and you've got some time, start stashing extra items like that, because then when you move, you're gonna have like all the basics as soon as you move in, and you don't have to worry about like that same night running to the store and getting toilet paper and getting all these things. That was a huge, I didn't realize how important that was gonna be, but I'm so glad I did it. When you're in a unhealthy, abusive relationship, there are things that you have to do to keep yourself safe. I have seen, like, part of the reason I did all these things was because I knew women who, despite having been in very unhealthy or very abusive relationships, they decided, okay, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. They gave their partner the benefit of the doubt, and they told them, they said, hey, honey, I want a divorce. I want to leave. And they did that before they ever like prepared themselves financially for that move. And multiple times I have seen women I know whose partners, as soon as they found out that their wives wanted to move or wanted to divorce, the husbands went into the accounts and cleared out the accounts. And legally, like, that's illegal for them to do, but it doesn't change the fact that as the woman is moving out, there is no money in the account. Like, yeah, it can be rectified eventually, hopefully, with lawyers involved, but at the moment, you've got nothing. And for some women, they never recover that money. We have to be cautious. You know, these people who were supposed to love us, for a lot of us, they decided to hurt us instead. Mentally, physically, verbally, emotionally, in whatever way that was. And for us to sit and give them the benefit of the doubt and say, like, oh, you're gonna be nice to me when I leave and you're not gonna take all the money because you're mad and spiteful, like, it's stupid of us to do that. And so if you're in an abusive, unhealthy relationship like that, do not give your partner the benefit of the doubt. Like, take care of yourself. You don't have to do these hugely illegal things to take care of yourself. It's really important to take care of yourself. The next thing I did to prepare to leave was find housing. I think this is a huge obstacle for a lot of people, and I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers to finding housing for you and your children if you have kids. It's an obstacle, but it's not an impossible one. It is absolutely not impossible. Now, for me, again, I know my situation. I was privileged in that moment when I left. We, for a multitude of reasons, before I left, we had a good chunk of cash in the bank. We had saved a lot of money. We had lived in a really, really cheap house for a really long time. We got a good deal on it when we got it. So we had this big stash of cash, not massive, but big enough that I was able to put a tiny down payment on a house. And so I went the route of looking to buy a home. I found a realtor locally. I think my hairdresser actually told me about her. And I found out that this realtor had also gone through an unhealthy relationship at one point. And so she kind of understood what I was going through, and she was absolutely freaking amazing. She was so good. She met me, and I would take my 2.5-year-old and my 2-month-old baby to these house showings. She would meet me there. She knew what was going on, and we would just tour these houses really quickly. I would go run errands and meet her and look at 2 or 3 houses at a time. It worked out for me. I was able to put an offer in on a house and purchase that house. I know that's not always the case for everybody, but I think if you are financially in a position where, like, maybe it's possible, it's worth looking into. I talked to my lawyer about it, made sure it made sense, and I crossed my fingers and I jumped into that decision. It was hard, it was scary, and honestly I was really lucky because I did that in 2019 before interest rates went up, before housing prices went up. I was really lucky. There were a lot of reasons, like a lot of luck and privilege that went into being able to do that, and I'm so grateful I was able to do that. And if you think maybe you're in that position, like, talk to a lawyer, talk to some family, talk to someone in finance about whether you could swing it. But otherwise, I know other people who, I have other friends who ended up renting a house, another one rented an apartment, another one rented a house. There's things you can do out there, and there's people who understand what you're going through. Anyway, I'll stop there. All right, a couple other things I did as I was preparing to leave my marriage. These both have to do with just my mindset. It doesn't really have to do with logistics around moving out, but it was my mindset because this whole time, I was still very unsure and unsteady about if this was the best decision for me, for my kids, all that. The two things that really helped me make that decision were, number one, I joined a domestic violence Facebook group called Speak Your Truth. It is absolutely, like, it changed my life. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. I don't wanna cry. So Speak Your Truth was formed in early 2019, and I actually found the group right as it was formed. And it came to be because a woman named Hannah posted on Facebook about her emotionally, verbally, and physically abusive relationship, her marriage, and how she ended it. And the impact that post had, like the virality of it, it just went crazy. And she ended up forming a Facebook group. That was in 2019. It's 2023 as I'm recording this. And that group has almost 19,000 members in it. And it was absolutely pivotal in helping me make that final decision to leave. I posted in that group April of 2019. I had a 3-week-old son. He was my second son. I had a 3-week-old. I'm in the throes of breastfeeding and taking care of my toddler. I was on maternity leave, and I was completely gutted in my relationship, felt completely unseen, unloved, uncared for. I was doing the majority of the parenting, and I had convinced myself that I needed to leave. I was like, this is not good for me. It's not good for my kids either. I need to leave. But I was not convinced that there were better partners out there either, which was really interesting. So I remember I posted in that group and I said, hey, for those of you who have been in, especially like an emotionally abusive marriage, and now you're in a good relationship, can you tell me what your partner does for you now? What do they do? Like, I don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like. I don't know what a not emotionally abusive relationship looks like. I have no clue. I don't even think it really exists. And the responses I got on that post, just like, it's so sad now because I look at the answers to that question. They were so simple. It was like, my boyfriend never yells at me. My boyfriend makes me my favorite meal once in a while. My boyfriend brings me coffee in the morning. My boyfriend never gets mad if I go out with friends. My boyfriend is like my biggest supporter. It was answers like that. And in April of 2019, when I read those responses, I remember feeling so hopeful and happy that better partners existed out there. But their responses felt so, like, all of that felt so far from what I was experiencing. It felt almost unreal. Anyway, that group, I've been in that group now for 4 years, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. It's a nonprofit now, Speak Your Truth, and it's got such incredible resources for anybody who's experienced domestic violence of any kind. It's a really, really great place to be. So if you're not in that group and you are experiencing, you're in an unhealthy, abusive relationship, or you have been in one, it is such a good place to go and get support and get resources. The other thing I did to really convince myself that I needed to leave was I read the book, Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay. It's a book written by Mira Kirschenbaum, I think. And she is a psychologist. I might get that wrong. Psychiatrist, psychologist, I'm not really sure. But she had done a lot of marriage counseling for years and years and years. And she took all of her experience and boiled it down to, I think, something like 36 questions. They're like these yes-no questions that you can ask yourself to help you decide if it would be better for you to stay in your relationship or better for you to leave that relationship. And she would do things like, you know, the majority of people who said yes to this question were happiest if they left, right? Or the majority of people who said no to this question were happy if they stayed. And it didn't necessarily give me I should say it kind of did. There was one question in there and it said, have you taken steps to leave? And I remember at that point, like, I knew I wanted to leave, but I was still so scared, right? I was looking for an answer of like someone to say, yes, you should leave. But nobody can really do that. You have to do that yourself. And I came across this question in the book, and it said, have you taken concrete steps to move out? And she's like, this doesn't mean like you've looked online at apartments, or, you know, that you've put in the application for the apartment. No, this is you have a key to that apartment or whatever. Like, you've taken very concrete steps to leave. And I remember I read that and I was like, well, I've looked at houses online. I guess I'm gonna go buy one. And I was like, if I can somehow manage to get through all those steps and put an offer in a house and get a key to that house, I think that means like that my body, my brain, everything is ready to leave. All right, so this next one I'm going to talk about is one that I actually did not do. But looking back and knowing what I know now, I would have done this a little bit differently. I think every woman leaving a relationship should have a safety plan in place. Whether you're a woman or not, I should say, if you are in an abusive relationship or a very unhealthy relationship, you should have some sort of safety plan in place, because the most dangerous time for a woman statistically is when she's leaving her relationship. And especially if there are other factors present. For example, if you know your partner owns a gun, if your partner has ever tried to strangle you or has physically harmed you before, the chances of you being harmed when you leave or being killed just skyrockets. So have a safety plan in place. There are a couple links that I'll put down in the description. There's my dog. Of how to make a safety plan, what you can put into a safety plan. I didn't do this, but the one thing I did do, and this is my next tip that I think everybody should do, is I did tell people what was going on. Hi, Penny. Hi, can you go lay down? Okay. I think it's important to not only have a community of people around you, have supportive people around you, but it's also important just for your safety, for someone else to know what's going on. If you have someone that you can fully trust in your circle, whether they're local to you or not, a friend, a family member, a coworker, find someone who you can trust and tell them what is going on, so that if something does go wrong, if you need help, you don't have to fill them in with like the background of what's going on. You can just call them, text them, whatever, and say, I need help. And they know what's happening. So tell some people. Not only that, you need a community of people. If you have them around you, like, call on them. Call on the coworkers who have been kind to you and helpful. Call on your friends who are always like, what can I do for you? Call on the friends that you feel like you've done a lot for, who they maybe kind of owe you now. Call on the family members who you know would support you no matter what. Call on the people that you know you can trust to help you through this process. All right, here are the final things I did in secret as I was preparing to leave my bad marriage. Penny, go lay down. My dog is wandering around. I wrote a letter. So before I actually told my husband of the time that I was going to move out, I wrote a letter to him. I wrote a letter that, for me, I felt safe, like, revealing where I was moving to and things like that. Not everybody will, but I did. So I wrote a letter that said, I'm moving to this location. I'm taking these big items from the house. If you have any problems with that, let me know. And I think I put like a quick kind of custody schedule on there just for the first couple weeks after I moved out. And I wrote that letter, and I decided to tell him I was moving out about 2 weeks before I was going to leave. I had a closing date for the house I was going to buy. And so 2 weeks before that, I was going to reveal this letter to him. But before I did that, I did my last thing in secret, which was that morning I jumped online. And again, this was all after discussions with my lawyer about my financial situation and what was legal in my state. Okay, so I'm not like saying everybody should go do this exact thing, but this is what I knew I legally could do. I went online in the morning onto our bank's website, and I took half the cash that was in our joint accounts and I moved it over to that new bank account that I had created that my ex had no access to. Legally, I was fully able to do that. I took screenshots of what I did. I wasn't doing it in secret. I revealed that when I went through the divorce process. But I wanted to make sure that financially I did not get screwed over, that I had the money to put that tiny down payment on a house, and I had the money to go buy toilet paper and buy food and diapers for my kids when I decided to move out. So on that morning, I transferred the money, I grabbed my letter and sat down with him and revealed my plan. And yeah, that's what I did up until he knew I was moving out. It worked out okay for me. I don't think I really would have done a whole lot different, but I do know that a lot of women can't do some of the things that I did. But maybe there's some of you who feel like maybe you could, maybe it would be safe in your situation. So either way, I hope that if you find yourself in a relationship that just feels like it's gutting you and you don't feel like the person you used to be, and you know your partner just doesn't love you like you should be loved, I hope that these tips gave you somewhere to start, at least, to start exploring the possibility of something better. And if you do decide to leave that relationship, I send you all my love. Oh, it takes so much bravery. It takes so much bravery to leave a relationship, to leave a marriage that you've been in for a long time, that you know is not okay, is not good for you. It takes a lot, and I'm gonna celebrate you the whole way through, no matter how long it takes you. And I'm just sending you so much love and strength. So that's all I've got for you today. Check the links down below for some more resources. We'll talk to you later.